and I'm going to try to log into my PowerPoint presentation from here. Oops. So I emailed it to you on there, so if you copy the Wi-Fi as well. It's an extra chair if somebody comes and reads it.
Tomorrow they come to
We have a small technical thing that we'll fix soon, but we can start even before that. I guess I have some cool diagrams that I wanted to use to explain the concepts I wanted to talk about. So we may have to just get creative. Could you give us just a few more minutes whilst we figure this projector thing out? I think it turns out that this cable does not connect with this laptop. We've not had lights the whole day is the problem. Anyway, so maybe we should go around the room and then just say your name. I know I may not remember, but I'm just curious who is here and what school you go to. Do you want to start? What's your name?
I'm Jeffrey, and I go to Gunn High School.
Very cool.
I'm Andy, and I also go to Gunn High School.
Cool. Hello.
Jenny,
I'm Jansen, I go to Saratoga.
I'm Rita. My name is Mia, and I go to Lawson.
Which school?
Lawson.
Okay.
I'm Tina, and I go to Cupertino High School. I'm Cecilia, I go to Jenny High School.
Cool.
I'm Jason.
Hi, Jason.
I'm Tyler, I go to Gilbert Elementary.
I'm Shreyas, and I go to Saratoga High School.
I'm Big One.
I'm Ethan, and I go to Saratoga High School.
I'm Daniel, and I go to Lawson.
I'm Melissa and I go to Lawson.
Hello to everybody at the back.
I'm Antonia and I go to Pally.
Very cool. Okay. So I'm just going to get this started, and then when the laptop comes, I will explain. So one thing that I, growing up, struggled with a lot was just being worried about things not turning out the way I wanted them to turn out. Another word for worry is anxiety, and that affected me a lot. I remember one time I was trying to get into a boarding high school in Ghana, and I was in the waiting list, and I stayed for 5 hours waiting to hear if I would be accepted into the school or not. And my dad was with me the whole time. That was very painful. The 5 hours felt like 5 weeks. I was like, I live in a different town. This thing is happening here. If I don't get it, I have to go back to the town. And imagine what all my friends are going to say. I left telling everybody that I was going to get into the best science high school in Ghana. And if I had gotten rejected and gone back home, I wouldn't know how to handle myself. All my friends would be like, this guy's a loser, he doesn't know what he's doing, he sucks. And that's what I was worried about. I was more worried about what my friends would say than what getting into the school would mean for me, right? And since then, I've had on and off issues where I'm going to speak to people and then I'm scared. Like, I was thinking this morning, I'm preparing my talk, just finalizing the PowerPoint slides, and I'm thinking, what if the people that I talk to don't like me? What if they laugh at my different accent, right? What if they know more than I know even about the topic? How am I going to feel? So I am coming to give you a talk on anxiety, and I'm anxious about how you would respond to what I have to say, right? So then I asked myself, I've done this before, I've done this many times, why am I still anxious? So the good news is that you are never going to get rid of anxiety completely in your life. And it's good news, right? And the bad news is that sometimes anxiety can stop you from doing your best. However, the aim of today is to be able to manage it in a way that it works for you. Okay. So it's important to see the historical context of anxiety. Where thousands of years ago, when people lived in caves, when you heard a rustle in the bush, it could be a tiger or a lion or a snake, right? And you had to run away. So our systems developed the sympathetic response, as they call it in science, where you either fight, flight, or what? Freeze. So we learned to be able to defend ourselves through systems that came up in our physiology, right? Today we still have the same tendencies, fight, flight, or freeze. Even though the last time I checked, there are no elephants or lions or tigers in Cupertino. So we have this system that was built for many, many situations that no longer occur, but we have the same responses. So a lot of the emotions that you face are built for different situations that may not always happen now, right? But you are reacting exactly the same way as if there's a tiger that is in the bush. So you have an exam tomorrow, your response is like a caveman 2,000 years ago who saw a tiger. But exam and tiger, I mean, they're not the same either. But you're reacting exactly the same way. And guess what? When you allow that to get too much into your system, what happens? There's a release of cortisol in your system. You have cloudy thinking. That's why, to a point, when you have too much of anxiety or stress in your life, you don't do your best. Because your systems are ready to fight or do something that is survival mode, not to do calculus problems, right? So what I want you to understand is that anxiety by itself is not bad. If you are walking in a dark part of some part of Ghana, right, where there are lots of cobras, and you hear a rustle in the bush, maybe it's a cobra, and maybe you want to run away. So without anxiety, you would have no fear at all, and you probably get killed. So we are not saying anxiety is bad. We are saying that the response to anxiety in many cases is too much and it's outmoded. So how can you manage it in a way that it helps you with your work, with your family, with your exam in your life? That's what we're going to look at today. Okay. So I'm not saying anything about anxiety being good or bad. I want you, like every emotion, anger, sadness, guilt, shame, all of them are pieces of information actually. So emotions are not good or bad. They're just information for you to do something with. So I want to tell you a little bit about myself, even as these slides go on. I was a chemical engineer for about 13 years. And then after a while I realized that even though I was good at what I was doing, I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. I mean, I've been involved in some of the biggest water treatment plants in the world, in the US, in Ghana, and in Peru. And I came to a point where I realized I actually want to work with people. I want to be able to work with people to be the best that they can be. I want to help people to be able to deal more with their emotions in a way that they can live more joyful lives. So I started to take certifications in different things a few years back. And the ones that I found most interesting were, there's a modality called neuro-linguistic programming. And it deals with the mind and the heart. So I went and took courses in that and got certified in that. And then I also took some courses in an organization called 6 Seconds. They deal mostly with emotional intelligence. So I realized, well, I know a lot of math and calculus and physics and science, but I don't really know how to deal with my own emotions. And really when I suffer, it's not because I didn't know much chemistry, it's because I didn't know how to handle with my emotions, right? So I've been building that for myself, I've been training myself on that, and right now what I'm doing is I want to be able to share what I have learned, both in my professional experience and with some of the psychology training that I've taken with people who come here at SpringLight. So hopefully at the end of the day, you walk out here knowing that you have a choice, okay? and you have a choice as to how you feel on a daily basis. If today you are overwhelmed with a lot of emotions, there may be many reasons. I want to be honest with you that in some cases you want to see a therapist because there are some chemical and biological responses to things like stress as well. It's not just something in your mind, okay? Sometimes people need a therapist. But what we are going to learn today can help anybody, whether you need a therapist or not, because these are ways for you to be able to manage stress and anxiety on your own. I hope you see what I'm saying. In addition to, if you have a chronic case of it, going to a professional psychiatrist is always a good thing. So if you're already seeing a psychiatrist, don't think that you are going to stop seeing one, okay? All right, show you how we're doing with that. Yeah. It's the Wi-Fi one. Okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Good. Yeah, I think Google Slides will do it. And you can, this is going to be very informal. You can ask me questions along the slides. I don't want you to think that I have to go to the end before you ask me a question. And you may know something that I don't know, so feel free to let me know. I wouldn't feel bad that you tell me something that I don't know.
You have PowerPoint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So,
This one.
yeah. Oops. Something is different. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what it should be. And then it should be slideshow, right? Slideshow, yeah. But it keeps showing me this one. That's not right.
Do you have a view screen?
Oh, okay, okay, that's it. Alright. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for your patience in waiting. So I call that the SpringLight Excellence Forum because I want us to do a series of talks like this that will help you become the best person that you can be. Okay. Today we're just starting with managing anxiety. I say to achieve excellence in exams and also in life because you would need that in your life as well. Okay. So one thing I want to acknowledge is that things do go wrong in life. And sometimes no matter how good you are at managing your emotions or anxiety, things will still go wrong. So this would not stop wrong things from happening to you. But what it would do is empower you to know that you are a choice. And that you're not a victim of the things that happen to you. Okay. Who hasn't been at this place where you feel like tearing your hair out? You're overwhelmed, there's too much work, and you don't know what to do, right? It could be sickness, it could be just your friends, your family, and you're like, what am I going to do with my life? How do you feel in those moments? Just, I want you to take 2 seconds and reconnect with a situation where you felt like just everything is falling apart. I don't know what to do with myself. I have 5 finals. I haven't finished my homework for the previous one. My mom is yelling at me, or my husband is yelling at me, or my wife is yelling at me. What am I going to do? Okay. So here's what I say. If it has happened to you before, it's a very normal part of life. The fact that it happens to you doesn't mean you are wrong or the other person is wrong. That's just part of the human condition. Okay? The thing is, what are you going to do about it? There's a famous psychologist that I really like. His name is David Burns. He's a Stanford psychiatrist, and he says something really interesting. That everybody, if I may read what he says, practically everybody knows what it is like to feel anxious, worried, nervous, afraid, uptight, or panicky. Often anxiety is just a nuisance, but sometimes it can cripple you and prevent you from doing what you really want to do with your life. I hope that it doesn't happen too frequently, but sometimes it does happen, that you can't do something because you feel so stressed and so afraid, right? The good news, listen to what he says here. I have some great news for you. You can change the way you feel. And we're going to look at certain things that can help you change the way you feel. Whilst you're feeling anxious, before you feel anxious, and after you feel anxious. Even for your exams. If you have an exam starting Monday, what can you do today to prepare yourself to do the best that you can on Monday? One thing I can't do for you is, if you're not well prepared, no matter how much knowledge you have, the exam will be the exam, right? But what I'm trying to get you to is, you know you've studied, you know your stuff, but you are still afraid. So this is what we are trying to fix. There's something called preparation. I can't help you with that. I have an analogy for you here. So, if you drive, and some of you may be too young to drive, you've come across a yellow stop sign before, right? Anxiety is like being at the traffic light and the signal is yellow. What does yellow tell you to do?
Slow down.
Slow down or speed up. It's one of them, right? Because sometimes you are at the traffic light and it's yellow, and somebody's about to ram you in the back. So maybe you want to speed up and cross before anything happens. Some people are very impatient. So that's what anxiety is. It's telling you that something has to change. You have to make a different decision from what you were doing like 2 seconds before. Either you slow down or what? You speed up. That's what anxiety tends to be. So that's all it is. It's a sign. It doesn't mean you're going to die. Okay? Unless, of course, you get blinded by the light and then all of a sudden you stop or you freeze. That can happen as well. You can get so concerned about the brightness of the light that you stop thinking. That's what anxiety could do to you. So when you think about anxiety, I want you to think about it as a metaphor for being at a warning sign. Danger may happen, it may not happen, but you have a choice to do something about it. Okay? So that's the metaphor that I'll use. Now, any question up to this point on this? There's a technical definition for anxiety. I don't want to get into that. Really what I want us to focus on is, what are the tools to manage anxiety? I think that's more important. Okay? It's more important to know, now that I'm feeling anxious in this moment, what can I do about it? Okay. So if you don't have any questions, and with your permission, I want to go to the tools for effective management of anxiety. Okay. There are many tools. I just picked 5 of them. Here. I'll go through them one by one. The first one is what many books will call self-awareness or self-observation. And this is how it's going to work. You're going to have to ask yourself, moment by moment, what is going on in your emotions, right? Because if you look at anxiety as a spectrum, or any emotion as a spectrum, if you catch it 50% down the line, it may be too late. It may already be affecting you, right? But what if you could catch the emotion 5% after it started, or just as it starts? Then you have a chance to stop it. So that's why self-observation and knowing how you feel is important. Most emotions you can feel in your body. If you're comfortable with yourself, you can feel that my chest is beginning to tighten. And this only happens when I'm feeling anxious, right? Or some of you, your fingers begin to tingle like that. Then that shows that you're getting anxious. So what you want to do is to know the symptoms that show that you are beginning to get anxious. Is that okay? It's important to know that. Then the next thing I call reframing or reframes. And it comes from this concept that what happens and what you think about it are not the same thing, right? So imagine two circles that overlap. One of them is my left. This is really what happened. The other one is, this is how I'm thinking about it. And what happens usually is that people make wrong assumptions. And these assumptions is what rules us. So I'll give you an example. This is not my original story. One time in high school, is the story, the person tells the story in high school. He wrote a handwritten note and put it in the backpack of a girl that he liked. They were both in high school at the time. And he didn't hear anything back from the girl for years, until they met 30 years later, and he's like, I really liked you and you didn't respond to the thing that I sent to you. You know what happened? He had been living with the thought and the belief that this person didn't like him. It turns out he had put that letter in a different person's backpack, not in the person that he wanted to talk to, right? But what was his assumption? His assumption was that the person read the letter and the person didn't like him back. So sometimes you want to challenge your assumptions. What if the interpretation that you've made is wrong, right? So your thoughts are just thoughts, they are not real. And in my personal life, I remember one time my mom said something to me that for 20 years I held on to, and I was very upset about my mom every time I thought about it. And then in fact, 3 weeks ago I called my mom and said, on this month, when we used to live in this house, you said this and I have thought about it this way for a long time. And it's like, really? Did I really say that? That's what she said. It turns out she meant something completely different, but I held on to it for a long time. So I want you to consider that the things you think about are not the reality, they're the stories that you make. Okay? That's what reframing is. Then, relaxation techniques. Sometimes I get too stressed, you want to settle down. There are some techniques that we'll look at. Then I have a model from neuro-linguistic programming called the anxiety model that I want you to consider every time you are in a situation that you might get anxious about. Then this last one is going to scare you. That not only for anxiety, for almost anything. The solution to the thing you fear is to do the thing you fear. Isn't that scary? Like, do the thing you fear, and then you get. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, do the thing and you will get the power. So most of us will not do it because we are scared, right? And the solution to your problem is doing the thing you are scared to do. They say that greatness is on the other side of your fears, right? So for you to effectively overcome anxiety in the long term, you have to face your fears. Okay, so we're going to do an exercise right now. It's an exercise on self-awareness. You don't have pens, but if you have a pen, you can write it down. Here's the exercise. Okay? There are 6 questions. I want you to think in your mind, or write it down if you want, a situation that happened. Like, think about what the situation was, who you were with, where you were, what you were doing. Okay? So think about that situation. Identify some thoughts that you had during that interaction. Like, what were you thinking when that situation or event or the person you were with happened? The third question is, how did you interpret the situation? Like, what was your interpretation of what was happening? Right? So we are going in order. Something happened. You were with some people or maybe by yourself. You thought a certain way about the person or the thing that happened. Now, when you thought about it, how did you feel? That's where I want you to get to. Now, I want you to keep it real. Pick a specific situation, see how you felt in that moment. How did you react? So see what I'm saying? You think something, you feel something, you act or react a certain way. So it's called a trifecta. It's a triangle, if you think about it. Think, feel, and act. and it goes in all directions, not just in one direction. Okay. So what I'm beginning to establish here is the fact that your thoughts affect the way you feel, and your feelings affect the way you act. So simple example, I suck at calculus. I'm a calculus teacher, I can say that. I said that, and I have a test tomorrow. What do you think I'm going to start feeling right now? Unsure about myself, right? Insecure. How do you think I'm going to perform? Probably not as well as I could, right? So think, feel, and act. What this thing is trying to let you see, and the last question says, are these reactions and actions familiar? I want you to begin to think about patterns that emerge in your life. So yesterday, you thought negatively about your friend, and then when you met your friend, you had a bad interaction. Okay. Tomorrow, when you start having the bad interaction, could you catch your thought and say, oh, maybe it's because I think my friend is X, Y, and Z. That's why we are not connected. So it's important to do two things. First of all, recognize the thoughts that are making you stressed out or angry or upset. Catch them early, right? Not just that, next time those thoughts begin to happen, would you be able to stop them as they start? So that's the concept of self-awareness. Unless you know your triggers for anxiety, anxiety would become your master for a long time. So what is the trigger? Is it that every time you hear that there's a test, you start getting anxious? Think about that. What is triggering you? Is it that every time you see somebody wearing a hat turned the wrong way, you start getting upset? There's always a trigger. There's always a trigger. So, parents in the room, if you observe your kids, you may realize that sometimes there's something you say, and all of a sudden they shut down completely. Do you know what it is? And if you are a young person, a teenager, or somebody who is still in school, I want you to think about this. Is there something that every time you hear, you get really frustrated? What is it? Okay? So we are trying to catch things before they happen. This is the self-awareness piece. So you're going back to the source. It's like dominoes arranged in a line. If you can go back and knock the first domino down, everything else would fall, right? The deeper or farther you can go, the better. So think about that situation, and every time you are in any situation, from today onwards, I want you to ask yourself, what did I think just before this thing happened? Okay? And keep doing that until it becomes a habit. So that's my challenge to you, as to whether it's anger or anxiety or anything that's your challenge in life, think about the things that happened before you started feeling a certain way. And you can use these questions as a guide. Okay? Any question on this one, please? Okay. Then the next one I want us to talk about is the issue of reframes. I'm asking you to challenge the things that you say to yourself. Challenge your assumptions. So here's the thing. Alright, so you think you're going to get a B in calculus, and you really need to get an A to get into Harvard. Think with me here. Let's have a thought experiment. Is it very probable that the thing you fear would happen? That's my question to you. So this is called reframing. What is the likelihood that it will happen? Have you had fears in the past that you will fail a class and still passed it anyway? So why are you afraid today? It's possible, right? Okay. And if what you are afraid does happen, is it necessarily the case that there's only one alternative to that? So what if you didn't get into Harvard? Big deal. Like, who cares? So I tell you a story even as I say this. I'm not saying it's not important to get into Harvard or anything. Some of you have heard of Albert Einstein, right? Correct? You've heard of him. So when Einstein was trying to get into a college out of Germany, he wanted to go to the Zurich Polytechnic Institute. It was, in his time, the most prestigious science university he could get into. And guess what? They said no to Einstein. So he went to a different school. So was Einstein a failure? All the people who applied to go to Zurich that year and they got into when Einstein didn't get into, do you know about any of them? Have you ever heard of any of them? Probably not, right? But he went to a different place and he's famous. So you may not get the thing you want the first time, but so what? This is called reframing. It's putting things in context. So this is my philosophy personally. If you want something and you work very hard for it and you don't get it, let it go, right? So let it go. So what? I'll give you another example. Einstein, the second year, got into Zurich Polytechnic Institute, but the first year, the school that he went to, he met a professor whose expertise was around the concept of relativity, the theory of relativity. So Einstein learned a lot of what he knew from this professor in the school that he didn't want to go to. If he had been unfortunate enough to get the school that he wanted, do you think he would have met this professor who helped him out a lot? Probably not, right? So life can take you in cycles that are better for you than the one that you planned. As I said, what if the thing that you are afraid of actually happens? So who cares? I have another Einstein story that I like. After he graduated from his school, he wanted to become a professor at some of the most prestigious universities. People knew he was smart, but his personality was not very nice. And nobody would take him. So guess what? The only job he got was to work for the government, and he was working in the government patent office. That's a very boring job. 8 to 5 every day he's reading people's patents, trying to see if there's conflicts or if they work. Do you think reading patents helped Einstein to become an inventor or not? It probably did, right? Because he learned a lot about how people were putting things together, so that when he invented his own things. But if he had become a professor right away, do you think he would have been able to get that? So sometimes what you want is not what you need. That's a reframe right there. Accept the things that happen to you, right? Okay, so another question about reframing is, are there any constructive steps you can take when you are scared? So you are afraid of the ACT exam that's coming up in 3 weeks. You think you're going to fail, but you're 3 weeks away. Can you still do something about it? So I'm talking about being constructive, okay? So start doing something about the thing you are afraid of. Don't just sit down and throw your hands in the air. Small by small you get there, right? Okay, so another question is, does it really help you to think those thoughts in a loop, those worrying, terrifying, catastrophizing thoughts over and over again? That's my question to you. Why are you doing that? Because in my view, the more you do it, it doesn't solve anything, right? So somebody once said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get the same results, right? So why are you so worried, is my question to you. So first of all, sometimes you get what you want and it's not good for you. And sometimes you don't get what you want and it is good for you. How are you to know the difference? So the question is, why worry? That's why reframing comes. When you're faced with a challenge in your life, ask yourself some of these questions, and maybe you'll be less stressed than you are at the moment. Any questions up to this point on this, please? I want this to be a two-way thing. It's not like I'm the expert on these things. I learned a little bit. You guys know a lot in your lives as well. Can somebody at this point tell me, how do you deal with your own anxiety? Anybody? Like, when you feel stressed or worried or terrified, what have you been doing to solve it for yourself? Because everybody has a way of coping. Right? Any volunteers? Yeah, Johnson.
Take a walk outside.
Take a walk outside. Okay? That's actually a very good thing to do. Yeah.
Play ping pong with my dad.
Oh. Your dad is good at ping pong, right?
Yeah.
Who wins when you play?
Sometimes me, sometimes him.
Okay. You better let him win sometimes. It's important, right? Ping pong is a great sport. I played all the way in college as well. I love it. Who else? So as you can see, the things that you've mentioned are one of three big categories of things you can do to overcome anxiety. It's called a distraction, right? Do something else that would immerse you and let you forget about it. Okay. Good. So what if you're in a situation where you cannot walk outside or play ping pong? So let's look at a technique that you can use to help you relax. Okay. These are breathing exercises. Some of you are already experts in meditation. Keep doing it. Okay? But I call these things that you do in the moment to overcome the stress that you're feeling. I would explain the technique and we'll do this exercise in a minute. Okay? The science behind this is very simple. When there's a lot of things going on in your life, we say your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. That's the fight, flight, or freeze system, right? What you want to do is to relax. That engages your parasympathetic nervous system, and that is where the breathing techniques all come in. Okay? So what does 7-11 breathing technique mean? It means that you're taking a deep breath at the count of 7. So 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, and 1007. That's the deep breath. And then you exhale on the count of what? 11. So why do you think the exhale is longer than the inhale? It's actually very scientific, right? So the exhale is really what helps you to relax. So this is how it will work. We're going to do it 5 times each, okay? So hopefully we can do it together and get some synergy. So starting now, I'm going to count. So you're going to breathe in count of 7 and breathe out count of 11. We're going to do that only 5 times. See how you feel after that, and if it works for you, do that before any exam that you have to take, or any interview or any stressful situation you are about to get into. Maybe you're about to meet a new friend or give a presentation in class. So let's start now. So I'm going to count to 7. We're breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So breathing out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Stop. Was that hard or easy?
Breathing part is hard.
Yes. So breathing requires exercises. Usually people breathe just from their chest up. Okay? One of the ways to tell that you're anxious is that you're breathing very rapidly, actually. So the reason deep breaths overcome anxiety is because it reverses the anxious response, which is breathing just on top, like that. So breathing like this with deep engages your diaphragm just under your lower lungs. So you will need to practice a lot to strengthen your diaphragm to be able to do this effectively, okay? So this time I'm actually not going to count, I'm going to do it with 2. We're going to breathe in 7, breathe out what? 11. So let's try that. So breathe in again by 7. One more time. One last time. You don't have to close your eyes. I just tend to like to close my eyes. Okay. I'll just explain this, but we're not going to do it. So if this one was too hard for you, there's another one called the 4-square breathing technique. Some people prefer this. This is more for beginners. The way that works is that You breathe in at the count of 4, hold your breath for 4, exhale for 4, hold your breath for 4 and inhale again. So it's like a square. If you know math, you get that. So you breathe in for 4 seconds, you hold your breath for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold for 4 seconds after you exhale, and then you breathe in again. So it's like a square. That's another way that works. This is actually easier than that because you're only holding it for counts of 4. Whatever it is, I say if you did that between 5 and 10 times before an important activity, in the moment, it will help you relax. Okay? So I encourage you to try it. Now, I, as a scientist, if things don't work for me, I don't do them. So if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Okay? For some of you who are very logical, reframes are good enough. Some people are very much in their heads, and reframes work. That's great as well. Okay? The next technique we're going to use is a visualization technique. If you're very good at visualizing, this technique works for you. I promise you, the first time I did it, it blew my mind. I just didn't believe it until I tried it. I am so skeptical that if I don't get results, I don't do something. Okay? So this is called the visualization exercise. It's from neuro-linguistic programming, and we call this the anxiety model. I have to explain some things because if I don't explain it, you may not be able to do it the way we want you to do it. So here's where I get to teach a little bit. It's the same diagram. Here's the question to every one of you as well. When you think about the future, is it in front of you and the past behind you, or is it to your right and the past to your left? Everyone is different. When I think about the future in my mind, I see it in front of me. And when I think about the past, I see it behind me. I have friends, when they think about the future, they see it to the right, and they see the past to the left. And some people are more weird, they see it diagonally. It's okay, you can see it anyhow you want, just it shouldn't be a circle though, right? Because other than that, your future and your past end up meshing together. So, it doesn't matter how you see your future or your past. We are going to use your powers of imagination to get rid of anxiety in the next few minutes. So here's how it works. Pick for yourself where you see your future. Don't tell me. If you see it in front of you, see it, then your past is behind you, right? If you see it to your right, then your past is to your left. Okay, so this is how it works. Remember that anxious thoughts are in your head, and therefore the solution is in your head as well. Okay? It's not somewhere outside there. So the way this is going to work is that you are here at SpringLight. Let's call here now. Right? There's an event that is going to happen. This works with specific events or an exam. You cannot have generalized release of anxiety, no. You can only release anxiety for specific things. Okay? I'll show you a long-term solution to anxiety down the line, but for now, this model works for specific things. So exam, let's say calculus exam or chemistry. As a chemical engineer, I don't know why students are so scared of chemistry. It's the best subject in the world, I think. Anyway, I digress. So there's an event, and then let's say there's a future here, and then there's a past. Anxiety never happens in the past. The definition of anxiety is the fear of something that might happen in the future, okay? So we don't care about the past. We have other techniques in NLP for dealing with anger in your past, okay? Or sadness in your past. In this case, we're not dealing with that. Okay, so you're here at SpringLight. I'm going to ask you in a moment to imagine yourself floating above you. So how does that work? You're going to be, so this is me, Mahama, I'm here. And then I am going to see myself literally float above myself. Okay? I'm still here. Don't fly away, please. Stay in the room. But imagine yourself floating above yourself, floating above now. And I want you to pick an event. If it's exams, pick an exam. Pick one, not all of them. Okay? You have to do that for each one of them, please. So pick any exam that you are anxious about. Alright? And imagine wherever your future is. So I'm going to ask you in a minute to float above where you are now and float to where the exam is. I want you to imagine your desk or wherever you're going to take the exam, ACT, SAT, and imagine yourself taking the exam, sitting here today, all right? Not just that, as you see the arrow goes and comes back this way, I want you to float 15 minutes in front of the exam, telling yourself that the exam completed successfully and you did very well. So this is the trick. We know that you don't always do as well as you want to do, right? But since it hasn't happened yet, we can choose the future that we want, right? So don't choose failure because it hasn't happened yet. Now you have a choice. You want to choose success now, okay? And I can explain to you what success is. Success is not always getting what you want, like we were saying with Einstein. It could be a learning experience. So for some of you, your success is that you learn from the experience and you can use it in the future. So I'm saying you're going to float 15 minutes ahead of the event after it successfully occurred. See yourself there for a few seconds and you're going to float back to now. Does that work? So if I were doing it, I would see myself here, stand where I am, I'll float about myself, making sure I'm still grounded, but I see myself seeing myself. In NLP, we call this method dissociation. Dissociation means you are looking at yourself doing something. It's not someone else. That's dissociation. There's something also called association, which is you are inside an event, but we are not doing that for this. Okay? In this technique, we are going to be dissociated. All right, so we are now going to do the exercise in real time. It works best if you can close your eyes. You don't have to if you can close your eyes. So I'm going to guide you through. It's almost like a guided kind of meditation. So pick an event that you are anxious about, an event in the future. It could be tomorrow, it could be tonight, it could be a week from now. And if you don't mind, gently close your eyes just as quickly as you choose to or as slowly as you want. In the next few moments, I want you to float above where you are now. See yourself looking at yourself. And I want you to float gently into the future and look at the event, exam, public speaking, interview. See yourself successfully completing the event, exam, interview, talk. And I want you to float 15 minutes in front of the event into the future. See how you feel. Feel the feelings of success and accomplishment 15 minutes after the successful completion of the event. Stay there for a few seconds and float gently back to now, only as slowly or as quickly as you want. And when you are here now, you can open your eyes. So, what just happened is an opportunity for you to see yourself successfully doing something. Okay? And the way it works is, even after you leave here, you're going to see that your whole physiology is going to change. Just doing something as simple as this. We use similar techniques to knock off sadness and guilt and shame, but those ones you have to go to the past and pull them out. This is a different technique. So we've talked about reframing so far. Challenge the thoughts and your assumptions. We've talked about breathing exercises in the moment. We've talked about visualization. This may be the most powerful if you are somebody who can see, if you're a visual person. If you're very logical, reframes may work for you, right? If you're somebody who is very kinesthetic, you feel things a lot, then meditation or breathing exercises may work for you. I call it the kitchen sink. So this is my philosophy with these things. I use the kitchen sink. I throw everything. So when I'm feeling anxious, I reframe myself. I do breathing exercises and I do my visualization exercise. So I throw everything in, and that helps me a lot. So this is something you can do for yourself, okay? In the moment that you feel anxious. Any question up to this point? Okay. All right. All these things I've talked about up to this point are in the moment approaches to dealing with anxiety. You're feeling it or you're about to feel it, do it. How can you develop long-term habits to overcome anxiety? So I want you to leave here knowing that you can start building yourself up so that in 3 months, in 3 years, in 30 years, you have a lot less anxiety. And this one you have to do every single day, okay? The first thing I say, gather allies. What does it mean? This is something that in my culture, in my African culture, people are very good at. The bigger your support system, the less stressful you are going to be. So if you are always alone, you're likely to be more stressed than somebody who has friends or who has strong family support. So the friends that you hang out with are one of the biggest solutions to your anxiety or your stress. I was saying that to one of my clients today, and then he goes, "Oh, but all my friends are always talking about grades and Harvard and MIT, and they make me stressed." So if your friends make you stressed, find other friends who don't make you stressed. Right? So it's possible that some of your friends are the cause of your stress. I know that. Right? At least talk to your mom, and hopefully your mom is not making you more stressed. Right? so you want to build. I'm not just speaking of moms. Maybe dads can be like that as well. So it does work. But you need a strong support system going forward to be able to have long-term success with managing anxiety, please. It's very important. The next one is, I said improve fitness and nutrition. So this is interesting. Look, if you go to which place serves food with the most calories ever? I don't know. When I was in Miami, it was a place called Next. The meal was like 3,000 calories. Correct. If you eat a very high carb meal, you're going to have a huge sugar rush and then later on a big crash, right? Sometimes observe how you feel in a day after you've had some types of meals and consider that some of the way you eat is affecting your stress, right? Usually high carb foods can impact your stress levels. So be careful about that. We are not talking about nutrition today, but nutrition is important for stress management. Also fitness. It turns out that if you exercise regularly, your stress levels are going to go down. That's just a fact. Right? So one thing you want to do, definitely go out and walk. If you feel stressed, go for a short brisk walk. Right? 30-minute walk is maybe all you need. And don't walk with your friend who's always talking about grades and Harvard. Walk with somebody who is going to help you feel relaxed, okay? All right. Then this one is important. Develop higher self-esteem. Here's the thing, guys. If you believe in yourself and you make it a habit of believing in yourself, that small B- you got in your last calculus test is not going to make you feel like a failure. Because you believe in yourself. You know that no matter what happens, things are going to turn well. But self-esteem must be developed daily, please. Like, it has to be daily. Every day, watch what you say to yourself. Okay? So, I want to ask you to consider affirmations, if it works for you. Positive affirmations. So, for some of you, it's going to feel like you're lying to yourself because you're so used to telling yourself bad things about yourself that if I ask you to start telling yourself, I am awesome, you're going to be like, no, but I don't feel awesome. Keep saying to yourself, you're awesome until the day you start feeling you're awesome. That's what you gotta do. Because if you feel really bad today, it's because you've been telling yourself for the last few years that you're terrible. Right? How do you reverse the cycle of feeling terrible? Start telling yourself what you want to be. And I guarantee you that in a few months you will start feeling what you tell yourself. Remember, the life you lead today is because of choices you've made every day up to this point. Okay? We call them hidden commitments. This is not an original idea. I actually got this from the Landmark seminar. There are things that you are devoted to that you are not telling yourself. Okay? And that's also because of what you say to yourself. So I want you to consider, every day you wake up, say something to yourself that works for you. So I am a Christian. This is what I say to myself every day. That I can do all things. So that's my positive affirmation. Through Christ who strengthens me. That's what I say to myself. I can do all things through. That's my affirmation. What is yours? I have friends who say, I am bigger than everything that would face me today. So they say that to themselves before they go out of the house. And sometimes it helps you just look at yourself in the mirror and speak to yourself. I am bigger than anything that I can face today. That's all you may have to say to yourself. Right? If you say that every day, you are going to start believing it. At the beginning, it's going to look like you're lying to yourself, right? But I have news for you. The thing that you've been telling yourself that's negative is a lie as well. So if you're going to lie to yourself anyway, why don't you lie to yourself about positive things? So when you say you suck, show me the suck gene in your life. You can't find it. So you don't suck. But you tell yourself you suck all the time. Right? So choose the things you want to say to yourself. That's how you build high self-esteem. Okay, then I have action for you to take. Because everything that we've talked about to this point is not going to change your life. Everything you've heard me say for the last 1 hour cannot change your life. Only one thing can. And that word is called action. Okay? Because knowing something and doing it is not the same thing, guys. So knowledge, they say, is power. That's not true. It's actually false. Knowledge is potential what? Power. If you don't use it, you lose it. So here's what I suggest to you, is to take action now. What can you start doing now? If you have a pen and paper, I want you to write it down. If you don't, think it. What can I, replace your name with that, start doing from this moment that would make a difference in my own life? That would make me do better in my exams. Consider that it could be something really small. It could be, before I take any exam next week, I am going to do a breathing exercise. Okay? It could be, before I take any exam next week, I'm going to say to myself, even if I don't get the grade that I want, my life will turn out okay. That's a reframe. Is that okay? So I want you to think now and consider writing it down. What is one action you can start taking from now that you would do every day? Remember I said from now, but you do that what? Every day. Doing small things every day is called the slight edge. Okay? So there's a book I want to recommend to you guys. If after during the Christmas break, it's called The Slight Edge. Okay? Turning simple disciplines into massive success and happiness by Jeff Olson. Okay? So this Slight Edge asks you to find something that you can do every day towards your dreams or your goals. Just make sure it's something you will do every day, even if it's only for 5 minutes. So you want to get six-pack abs, for example. I mean, most of you have six-pack abs because you're so young, so it doesn't matter, right? But when you are 35 or 40 years, you may not. If you just did it for 5 minutes a day, that's all you would need. So, slight edge. There's a teen version for it as well. So this is for teenagers. This is slight edge for everybody. This is slight edge for teenagers. It's called Success for Teens. Same book. The dad wrote this. The daughter wrote this book. Okay? Same principles. All it talks about is the small things that you can do every day to make your life better. Okay? So the last thing I want to leave you with is this thing, and I need to take this out and do something about it. How do I? It's okay. Okay, good. It's more like it. So I wanted to end the talk with 8 principles from the Slight Edge for a better life. Okay. So we've talked about anxiety and exams, but I want to end it with how do you become the person that you were created to be? How do you, when one day you go to your grave, and everybody will die one day, how do you go without regretting that you wasted your life? These are 8 principles that the book talks about that I really like. Okay? And I would like to share it with you. The first thing is, how you view yourself creates your life. So if you think you are weak and you suck and you are insecure, guess what? You are right. And that's how you will be most of your life. If you think you are powerful, strong, successful, able, yes, you are right as well. That's who you will become in your life. So how you view yourself creates your life. Your thoughts, your beliefs about yourself, the things you hold every day are going to be who you become 5 years from today. That's the first mind shift I want you to have. The second one I would like you to consider as well. You already have all the answers you need inside you. Okay? You are going to see, if you've seen the movie Citizen Kane, you are going to become a PhD. You're going to go to Harvard and MIT. You're going to become very wealthy, start 3 startups and everything. And you're going to realize that if you didn't do the right things, you will still not be happy. Because there's nothing outside of you that can make you the person that you truly want to be. All the answers are inside you. Okay? By all means, go to MIT. By all means, get the PhD. By all means, start a startup that will feed a lot of people in Nepal and Cambodia. By all means, do all of those things. That's not where your happiness is. Okay? And I want you to realize that all the answers you seek are already within you. Whether you become the CEO of Apple or you're just a normal person that nobody knows about, all the answers are inside you. Okay. Another thing, and this is real, maybe you're too young to see that, you can't control what happens to you in life. People are going to betray you. People are going to say bad things about you. Your friends are going to not show up when you have a party. And you're going to feel bad about it. So what are you going to do about that? Only your reactions are in your control. Okay. The most powerful story that I've ever heard was of Viktor Frankl. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. And it's a very powerful book. He was in a concentration camp in Germany during the Second World War. And so many people die around him. But you know what he never lost? He never lost what he thought about himself or how he believed who he was to be. Right? So it is not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. Yes, and bad things happen. Some of you have lost friends before, you've lost families, you've lost things in your life. The question is, how would you react to it? Okay. So that's important. Another thing, we talked about it, failure creates unexpected opportunities. We talked about Einstein, there are many, many stories. So there's a gentleman, he wrote composed many songs, and they kept rejecting him, and they kept rejecting him, and they kept rejecting him. And one day somebody took a chance on him. You might have heard of this man. His name was Beethoven. Beethoven failed many times, and nobody cared about him. Okay. There's another famous writer. He got so frustrated with writing and not getting paid for it that he was writing a manuscript and he decided to throw it. He crumpled it and threw it in the trash can. He had given up on himself as a writer. Luckily for him, somebody found the thing that he put in the trash can and brought it out and said, you know what, maybe you want to look at this thing again. You may have heard of him. His name is Stephen King, one of the most famous writers of all time. So failure is just another piece of information, right? It may take you in a different direction than what you think. The good news is that none of us has a compass or a GPS about the future, right? So you accept the things that happen, and who knows what the things are going to be. Okay, I talked about this already. Number 5, knowing what to do is not the same as doing it. Everything we've talked about now it's not going to help you unless you do something with it. Okay? So I want you to consider doing something with what you've heard today and all the things you know already. There's nothing I've told you here that you didn't know already. So my hope is just to remind you of things that you know and to put it in a way that you can use. Okay? Now that you've heard all of these things, I want you to start with a plan. Have a plan on how you're going to deal with your emotions. How are you going to deal with your anxiety? How are you going to deal with your anger? How are you going to deal with your guilt and shame and regret in your life? Start with a plan. The plan could be saying positive things to yourself every morning, right? The plan could be making new friends that don't talk about GPA every day, right? Well, keep the friends that talk about GPA as well. But then you should do it, okay? The next thing is make the steps as small as you can. Because if I want to lose 50 pounds and I say next week I'll be 50 pounds lighter, what am I going to feel at the end of 1 week? Very disappointed, right? So it's not going to work. So small steps. If you have to go to the gym for 10 minutes a day, do it. If you have to do it in the house, do it. Whatever your dream is, I want you to break it into very small pieces. Just make sure you do it every day. Okay? Or in some cases every week, if that's what it means. But do a little bit of what you want to do. So you say you want to be a writer, for example. Write 20 words a day. Whatever it is that you have to do it. But do it consistently. And then finally, start today. Alright? Start today. There's no someday waiting for you. I know people who died at 104. I know people who died at 15. Nobody knows. I mean, nobody ever thinks they're going to die. Like the last time I spoke to my dad, I was on my cell phone checking Facebook and I was talking to him. And then a couple of days later they said he had died. I was like, what? Like you never know if this is the last time you're seeing or talking to somebody or doing something. So there's no tomorrow somewhere for you to say, I am only 16 years old or 13 years old, so that is, I have all my life. So start today. Anything that you want to do, you need to start today. Start small, but start anyway. Thank you. So, any questions? Anything you're curious about? Actually, I can leave this on, I guess. Is there anything that tickles your mind? Is there any contribution that you want to make to the topic that we've had today? You don't have to have a question, but if you do, I would like to hear. Is there anything that still bothers you about the concept of doing well in school or doing well in life or managing your stress? The parents in the room, is there anything that you're concerned about for your kids? And not your specific kid in general, because your kid might get conscious, self-conscious about that. Right? So anyway, I'm still around for a few minutes. If you want to ask me anything, you can ask me. I really appreciate you guys and thank you for coming. Good luck with your finals next week, guys. Yes. Yes. I have a program with SpringLight where I work with them. One of them. I'm doing these free seminars. Oh, so basically, they tell me what we are struggling. And then I have different therapeutic techniques that I use. Stress, it's just time management. I work with them based on what they know. It depends on how much the person has time. I usually recommend once a week. And usually I'll say for 3 months to see any improvement in the thing that the person is working on. Yeah, so it's just something that I do because I need to know what the person wants. Yes, yes. Let me take your email.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
The problem is, the kids is not motivated.
Yes.
How to motivate?
Yeah.
And also, this is a great concept, how a team can
Do that,
actually do
right?
it. How to do
Could you
it.
give me your name and email? Hello, how are you? Thank you, you're welcome. What's your name again? Ini. How do you spell it? I-N-Y. I-N-I-Y-A. Yes, and you go to Cupertino, right? Okay. Good luck. Good luck with your finals. Thank you so much. Johnson, good to see you, man. Good luck with your finals. Good to see you as well. So I will email you and let you know.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're doing really great things for the students. So you're working as a life
Yes.
therapist.
Yeah. So I'm working as a life coach, yes.
Yeah, that's really great.
And I like working with the teams because that's if you can change in high school, your life is so much easier. When you are already 30, 40, it's more difficult to change. You can still change, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can change.
Yeah,
Right.
this is really great. That for a teenager, it's very difficult for him to self-motivate himself to even to try.
Yes.
And number one, is like I'm hoping you can try. Number two, you can actually do it as a routine, which will help.
Yes. It is hard. It is hard. So there are ways sometimes with teenagers, they want to trust you first.
Exactly. You have to get their trust first. That's the first step.
That's the first. Other than that, you
Yeah.
can't help.
Yeah. And third party is much better than parents.
Yeah, they don't like to listen to parents.
Yeah. That's why
It's normal though. That's how it works.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I was a teenager once, so I know.
So I look forward
Yes,
to
so Jenny, I'll email you.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So sorry, I haven't responded to your email.
Oh,
yet.
no worries. No worries.
So, for unknown reason, some objects need to treat that email.
It's the last time.
Yeah, it's last time.
It's like stressed out. Like every time I encounter a problem, I really like to do at that moment at the exact time I didn't know how to do it.
So what do you think was causing that? Did you have enough practice? Or was it that day? Sometimes it's that day.
It's like that. It's like night before.
It's hard to like that beginning.
That can be
Yeah,
trigger.
that can show.
Yeah.
So I just finally got the test paper back, right? So one of the questions is for the triangle, one solution, two solutions, no solution.
Yeah.
It's exactly just like you did before.
In the homework,
In
right?
the homework, right? And this time it's only asking for one solution. And I saw it,
One solution.
one solution, two solutions. And you actually not only got the hint from Mahama, also you went back to teacher to ask the second time because you're still not quite sure, right?
Yeah.
And then after that, you actually did the exercise, I believe, right? And then, but you somehow you got it completely left. So,
Yeah. It can happen. Yeah. In my own testing, and I've seen that. Sometimes you go into the thing, you know it, but in the moment, it's not happening.
yeah.
Sometimes that happens.
And then also, I think the night before, so he's kind of strange in a way that, so he was really tired, Justin was really tired the night before. And then, so I started to ask him to do some more practice, trying to explain some questions to him because he was kind of behind, didn't get enough time to practice, right? And then he was completely checked out. It's like kind of fell asleep or no response to some very simple questions. So after a while, I said, okay, just
Go to sleep.
Yeah, go to sleep.
Yeah, I get that.
And then, and he said, no, I just need to take a quick nap, and then I will wake up and study. So I didn't expect that would actually happen, but actually it happened. Like an hour later, and Jensen got up and then started to put the book and do the exercise. And then at that moment, I just asked the same question, some of the same questions again, and said, "Oh, I got this, everything's good." So I just let him know alone. And then on the test day, in the morning, he seems to be normal. I mean, although he probably didn't get a whole lot of sleep, but he seemed to be okay. So it's kind of strange that during the actual test, he kind of checked out again.
So Justin, what was really going on in the morning? I know you were tired. Was there something else?
I don't think there's anything else. I mean, I had a pretty easy test. I went to the teacher right after that class to study.
Some more. So what can you do going forward about your overall score? Because I'm sure that and you are not very happy with your scores right now. So what is the remedy? Is the final comprehensive?
The final would cover all the chapters. Difficulty, I would say, is pretty much the same as the chapter 6 test.
Yeah.
And the teacher gave a lot of review questions, right? And then if you follow the same pattern, that means maybe some of the questions is exactly who pull from the review questions. And so far, you have done good or bad for those review questions, because like basically in the past week after he nearly didn't do good in the test, then he was kind of frustrated, right? And then kind of worried about like, oh, my math sucked, something like that, right? So it's more like in order to prepare. I mean, we still have a few days. The math test happened to be the last test this week on Thursday. Yeah. So now today is Saturday, right? So far, I sense that you kind of like you wanted to hold off preparing for math because you kind of worry about things, right? Yeah.
You have chemistry also at one.
Biology.
Yeah. So it's I would say the combination of both psychological and technical.
Yeah.
And math skills, right? Math knowledge. I mean, I do think he would probably need some help in some math knowledge in some area.
Has he practiced everything? Or he hasn't?
No,
had time
he
to
hasn't.
practice
He hasn't. I mean, he's kind of like he would rather to do something else, like maybe working on a computer science whole project, trying to math, no, don't touch it, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a barrier. So now it becomes like, should we do another session tutoring on math, or kind of just take it easy? I mean, if he's good, if he's in a good mood, then definitely he should perform a lot better than what he did in chapter 6.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's basically chapter 6, 6.1 through 6.3, we got 80%. But after we studied for the chapter 6 test, we only got 50%. So it's completely not reflecting actually what we know, but all of a sudden we just got like some really big impact.
Yeah, it looks like there were more psychological factors
Yeah,
than
more
than
psychological,
technical
yeah.
factors in this case.
Right.
So what I would say is not to beat yourself up, because what is in the past is in the past.
Yeah.
You can learn from it, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And what can you do to help him to sleep better than
Yeah.
before this
Yeah.
time? What can you
Oh,
do
absolutely. Yeah.
to help him? And also, if you after you go through all the things, if you feel comfortable, that's fine. I can always send him extra questions to try on.
Right.
Alright? So if you want, you can send me the packet that you have, and I can send you similar questions, so that if you have more time, you can do that. Is that okay? Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So let him do all of that, and he should be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I definitely would like him to practice on is like to quickly read through all the questions. Just mark it down which one you know for sure. No.
Yeah.
Check out. Which one you're not sure, click the question mark. Which one is like absolutely no idea, click cross, right? And you need to tackle those check questions first.
I call it my ABC principle,
Yeah.
which is my A is the one that I know how to do, and do fast.
Right.
My B is the one that I know how to do, but it's going to take me too much time. C, I'm not sure about. So I go in that order. I go through every question. It doesn't matter if it's a computer exam or it's a written exam. I read every question really fast because I know what I know and I know what I don't know. Then I mark A, B, and C. So each question I look at really quick: A, B, C. And then when I start, I'm going to do all my A questions. And then I'm going to do all my B questions.
So did you realize that you probably in chapter 6 test, you actually you left a lot of A questions blank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens a lot.
Yeah, you did. I just finally got a chance to look at your test paper. So I was like, oh, this one you did.
Yeah.
This one you did previously.
Yeah.
It's slightly changed, but same concept.
Yeah. So that's what you learn from it. I mean, the thing with grades that you don't want is you learn from them. Just don't associate the grade with your ability. That's the thing you need to dissociate the two things. Your ability and the grade is not the same thing. And even if you get A+, it doesn't mean you're the greatest mathematician in the world, right? Exactly, if you don't get the grade you want, you're not the worst. So just do what you can do and let go of the outcome. I think your dad is helping you a lot by being invested in what you're doing. See it as help, not as pressure, because sometimes the student can see it as pressure, right?
Yeah.
So be careful not to see it as pressure. And yeah, so you can scan what you have and send it to me, and I can send you several questions and then the solution. Because all you really can do is practice more and let whatever happens happen. So that's all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
I'm
you
glad
so
you
much.
could make it.